All right, welcome back to another Free Tip Friday. Again, my name is Ryan Jansa. Last time we touched a little bit on the grip. Since we're starting right at the very beginning, we talked a little bit about the grip. You can kind of reference our last video, which you should be able to find online if you want to learn a little bit about the grip. But again, that's where it all starts. Now that we know how to hold the club, it's the next step is, well, what do we do from there? So if you're taking lessons from me or from any professional, they're going to move into how do I stand? What does it look like? It's grip, stance, posture, alignment are kind of the sequences when you're learning golf for the first time. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that setup. How do I get comfortable? Do I stand straight up and down like this? Do I get way too bent over like this? What is the proper setup? So a lot of times, you'll hear, whether you play basketball or baseball or softball or any kind of sport in general, typically, that you got to kind of move your feet. What you'll find is you'll hear people say you got to get into an athletic position. So when we talk about that athletic position, you'll hear a lot of times people will say stuff like, oh, hey, feel like you're sitting in a chair. Okay, well, really what they're looking for is we're looking for a little bend in our knees, a little bend at our waist, so that, again, we're just comfortable. And again, you don't want to force yourself into any position because, again, once we do that, then we have a little bit too much tension. And tension is not what we're after in golf. We want to feel loose and let everything go nice and smoothly. So we'll talk a little bit about this setup, and for me, I think that's where you're going to start, is how far, first of all, how far are my feet apart? Much too wide. We're not riding horses, we're playing golf, okay? Now, the other thing is, it's just like this. If I get too narrow, my balance is bad. I would want to be able to be in a position where my feet are pretty much shoulder width apart. So if you imagine if you ran a line straight from your shoulders down to your toes, that's about how far apart they should be. I shouldn't be able to come from behind you if I gave you a little shove and tip you over. So if your feet are too narrow, that's what happens. Now, if you get too wide, what happens is you can't turn your body as comfortably. So when you get too wide, you can't do what we want you to be able to do once we get to the full part of the golf swing. So again, we're going to start feet shoulder width apart, and if we imagine, we're going to bend a little bit at the knees, and again, we're not squatting down, just a slight bend in the knees, and then really all we're going to do from there is, if you imagine, we're just going to kind of bend at the waist. That puts us in that perfect position like we talked about with the grip, where our hands just hang comfortably. Again, I'm not forcing them out here. I'm not letting them hang, pulling them in. It's just right where they would hang if I just let them go. And then that's where we're going to grip the golf club like we talked in that first video. So again, comfortable bend in the knees, bend at the waist. Feel like you're in a pretty athletic position where if I was going to push you from the front or the behind or side, front or back, you're not going to get tipped over one way or the other. So once we're in that position again, now we talk about, well, where does the ball go? I'll grab a ball here. So I like to use training aids specifically like this. You'll see people marking their driveways with them or whatever. These are actually just alignment sticks. So these can be used a bunch of different ways. But again, it helps us point our feet. So whether you're looking down the line here, you can see that that's going to help us with our alignment. That's going to show us where we want our feet to go. Okay? Now this one can be used just like this. And that shows us where our ball can be. Okay? So if you imagine if I stood like this ball is way at the front of my stance. And if I stood like this ball is at the very back of my stance. And then obviously here, we're very neutral. Ball's in the very middle of my stance. Now, for most clubs and for most people that are just getting started, this is where we want most of the irons. So again, whether you start, this is an iron, these ones with the covers on them are woods. So if we're hitting almost any iron, we want to get in that comfortable position, slight bend at the knees, a little bend at the waist. Ball should be right about in the middle of your stance. This is a very useful tool so that when you look down, you can tell that the distance between my front foot and this stick is the same as from there to my other toe. So I know that when the ball's right out here, that it's right in the middle of my stance. And for most clubs, again, if you're just getting started, that's pretty much where you want it. That's going to allow you to kind of catch the ball at the bottom of your swing and finish, okay? So we don't want the ball way at the front of our stance with most of our clubs because we're going to top it just like that. We're going to hit the top of the ball right here, okay? So if it's out too far in front, you got to really reach for it. And if it's too far back, what that does, that makes us wood choppers. We get very steep, and then you'll see big, huge divots, you know, grass flying everywhere, and we're not after that either. Recapping the stance and posture and setup is, again, if we're standing straight up and down, we want our feet shoulder width apart, little bend in the knees, little bend over at the, and again, just to be comfortable. I don't want you to force yourself in any position. So once we're there and we're comfortable, again, we're going to take our grip, and then from that point on, we're going to try to initially start with the ball in the middle of our stance, and you can do a really good job of kind of figuring that out by putting these alignment sticks down. As we get further into the series, we'll talk a little bit more about when you start to move that ball around. Whether you're hitting a driver or a 3-wood or something like that, you're going to put the ball a little more to your front of your stance. But again, that's a topic for a different time. So again, appreciate you stopping by, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time. We're going to try to get through, you know, right from the, you know, soup to nuts. We're going to have, you know, we started with the grip, and we'll end up with all sorts of fun little tidbits. Make sure you come back and see our next video.